Good morning. Welcome back to the endless live streaming. It seems like it. And it seems like my phone going to fall short, so I'm going to have to squeeze in a couple more days in here because I can't really do more hours. My throat doesn't hold up. Um, last week or last time Tuesday, I had no problems with the chat, but I had taken it off my YouTube channel and put it on, I put it on my private YouTube channel, but the problematic channel that YouTube messes with me on, the Grand Columbia channel on YouTube, I had taken off that. Chat worked flawlessly. Today I put it back on because it's experimentation, trying to figure out where that chat problem was. And already it looks like the chat has fallen off for Rumble with the YouTube channel on. So somehow it's interfering with it. I get one chat in, and then after that, none. Now I can see the Rumble chat because I have it now. I've got it separated on a side screen, so I can look at it, but I can't click on it and put it on the screen. It's too late for me to cancel the YouTube, but it's really kind of pushing me to just ending YouTube altogether if I can't use the good features that are on here. It's definitely problematic. So there is that. And let's see, I see one person on YouTube, and I got five people on already. Owen, good morning. Sorry I couldn't make it to the live stream on Tuesday. Yeah, I noticed you weren't there. FYI, the name of the Meatloaf song is Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Thank you. Yes, that's it. If I go any further, will you love me? Yeah, I love you forever. Yeah. Yeah, baby, that's it. Okay, today I've got more uh, personal, private stuff I'm going to talk about there's nothing wrong with it. I just go my life without really talking about myself. And now here I am on live streams having verbal diarrhea. Today, well, I got a couple things I'm going to talk about here locally to start off, nothing big. And then I'm going to talk about some of these riots worldwide and see if we can have a conversation. If anybody knows something, feel free to contribute. Um, it's it's kind of striking to me. Kind of striking to me. Um, Greece, Serbia, Turkey, they're all over the place. And these aren't small riots; these are massive riots. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Um, I got a clip from each one, and then I'm trying to look through my notes here, and then I'm going to talk about when I crashed a helicopter, and so that'll take up a fair amount of time because I'm going to give some background story how I got in a helicopter, and I got some pictures from the dark past, and yeah, we'll go through where it crashed, why it crashed, all of that. Hopefully, it'll be somewhat interesting, but who knows? The goal is to put in live streaming, and you notice I started and I just left the placard up. That counts. So if I start it early, then it's streaming. Then by the time it gets to 10 o'clock and I come on, I've gained those extra few minutes. Maybe that's a little cheat code. And Owen, let me sleep on it. I'll give you the answer in the morning. I gotta know right now. Um, that song cracks me up. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing Owen. Those chats have just fallen into it's the YouTube. I just can't stream with the YouTube anymore. That particular channel on my private channel on YouTube, I had no issues. I had no problems whatsoever. All right, so when I'm putting up pictures and talking, I'm not seeing the chat. So what I have to do is kind of bounce over to chat once in a while and come back. Clock. Am I the clock? See, it's a damn shame. I can put this up, but I can't put the Rumble up. And most people are on Rumble now, which they should be. This YouTube is going to go away. I don't even think I'll have it on Coffee Time coming up. It's going to be Rumble only. I have more people live. I have a lot of subscriptions on YouTube, even though they're capped. It's YouTube capped at around 4,000. I think I got up to maybe 4,300, and then they dropped me back down. So it's right around 4,100, I think, right now. However, many of those don't even have access. They don't get notices. But the number of people that will come on live channel is actually capped by YouTube. It cannot exceed more than 60. So if I have a live stream on YouTube, 60 is the max number of people that can go in. I've looked at this for several years, and it'll rise up rather quick, hit 60, never goes over it. So obviously it's capped. I mean, every once in a while you might hit 61. No, 60. That's it. Now on Rumble, there's no limit. And being new, I still get like 150 some odd people on a live stream, and it's just there's only those people are the only ones that actually know that I'm doing this. Where YouTube, it's been around for what, eight years or so. So even though YouTube caps me, it's out there in Google. It's all over the place, all over Facebook. A lot of people know about it. And I got tired of getting emails saying, I try to watch your channel, but you make it too difficult to see it. Or I tried to watch it and I couldn't find it. I couldn't get in, whatever. I did find out or realize that the issues that a few people were having with Rumble is really just an understanding. And maybe I'll put some charts and screenshots up next time around. But I will explain once more before we get to the meat of the subjects here. I have a Rumble account. That Rumble account is Capital Grand Space Capital Columbia. That's the account. Within that account, I have 3 channels. Grand Columbia, one word, all small letters. Sane in Columbia, which is what I'm on right now, and then Coffee Time Exotics for the coffee business. So there's 3 channels. It's all under one account. So if you go to the one account, you kind of need to go. It'll show different things. Some not even in my channel. They're just things that pop up on a feed. It's really not important. What you want to do is, if you're looking for Coffee Time, you go to the actual Grand Columbia channel. If you're looking for these, you go to the Sane in Columbia channel. If you're looking for coffee information, you go to Coffee Time Exotics channel. And then you won't have any problem. The only other thing is, depending on the browser you use, if you go to the stream and it looks like it's just not playing, but you see the thumbnail like that, just hit refresh on your browser, and you refresh it and it'll catch up to where it is live. I'm not sure exactly what's up with that. I will just say that Rumble has been making constant changes and upgrades. Some things, some things may have a bug here or there, but I can tell you on my end, even with that, it works way better than my YouTube issues. And those who watch the channel for a long time, God knows I had lots of problems with YouTube, where if I'd say something that YouTube didn't like, it would throttle me back, or some people, the screen would freeze, or it would go into the, clicking buffer clock, or just drop altogether. It was frustrating, and it happened way too much. Sometimes it would just drop me off the internet. I'm sitting there looking at my computer, the speed, all of that, all optimal, and YouTube would drop me. Okay. Feel free to use the chats. That'll help me. I'll be shocked if I see a Rumble chat comes up, but at least now I know. Now we know where the problem is. So no more YouTube. All right. First thing I'm going to talk about is homelessness in Armenia. There's a couple headlines that came up, and then I just want to mention a few things. I've mentioned on Coffee Time in the past, but now I'm seeing these headlines. So, all right, first one. It's a new program. It's called the Awakening Plan in Armenia to clear streets and strengthen security. They're stepping this up because they've had some violent crime recently down in Central, and it's almost entirely related to homeless people because they're doing drugs. Or, they'll keep a knife in their pocket to protect themselves, mentally ill, and somebody will, I don't know, just look at them the wrong way and hack them with a knife or something like that. And so they said, well, we're not going to have any of this. So what they're doing, the Awakening Plan, they have police walking around the streets of basically where they crash out, which is pretty much always just somewhere on a sidewalk. And they'll wrap themselves up. They'll usually cover their head and face. They'll sleep in the day because they're out prowling around at night. So what they do now is the police go around, they see them, they wake them up, make them move along. That's their sleeping time, and they're not letting them sleep. Now you say, well, that's mean because in the past they always kind of live and let live. But in the past, they didn't have these issues. The people that were sleeping on the street, up until I would say COVID, were, basically just down and out. They weren't bothering anybody, and they were up early in the morning to go off and try to find a way to get some money or whatever. And they wouldn't go to sleep until people were pretty much leaving the streets. When I lived in Provenza, the first building when I moved into Armenia, there right across the street, there was this raised tile platform because the street was on kind of a hill, just kind of a raised platform. And there was a little corner there kind of tucked off and a little plant. And this guy would go there and kind of tuck himself in. He wouldn't go there until maybe around 10 o'clock or so at night when most people just weren't out walking around because it's a busy area. And so he would tuck himself in, he'd wrap himself up, he'd just kind of make himself invisible. And then when the sun would come out around 6 o'clock, a few minutes before the sun would start coming out, he would get up, dust himself off, wrap his stuff up, and he would leave. So he chose to sleep when he wasn't bothering anybody, and during the day he would go out and find, a way to survive. That's the way they pretty much operated for the most part in Armenia. Now it's very different. I'm not saying those people don't exist, but with the homeless that are out there now, they tend to be kind of predatory. And if you're a different homeless, you're sleeping when they're out prowling around. Who knows? Maybe they're not going to let you sleep. So it's an issue. Now, the thing is, Armenia's had a program funded for, over a year. I heard about it last year, 2024. So I can't say exactly the time frame, but it was middle or later in the years when I heard about it. And it had been in existence, and it was to help people off the streets. And they had volunteers that would go around, find homeless, and offer them a place to sleep and get cleaned up and find a job. They would free food, but they, in order to have a place to sleep and the free food, they had to agree to go through a process to help them get employed. And so the intention was actually get them off the street. It wasn't just give them stuff. It was keep them alive and focus so that they could do something with them. And the problem was, I don't even know. I'm not even sure that program exists, because the last story I read on it is, why fund something that nobody's going to utilize? They didn't want it because they could go out and panhandle or steal and not be bothered. They could make their money, get their booze or their drugs, and get on with the next day. That was the life they were choosing. And why go work the grind? The other headline here is, from the streets to the classroom. These are people that they did get a hold of. 2 former homeless people return to their studies and dream of a new future. One guy, he actually has, his last name is Hong, Hong. That's not a Colombian name, but I don't know what that's about. But they're both, well, you could see the 2 guys there, one sitting on the right and the one right behind him in the hoodie. They got their act together, got haircuts, got cleaned up, got some clothes, been eating, and their studies are actually high school. They're going back, they're finishing high school. And they're going to, try to help them find work and get their life back together. So it's not like it used to be in Colombia, where, it's like you're on your own. If you can't make it, that's on you. They've actually found ways to get funding to try to do these programs, but it's frustrating because you have these people that want to do some good, and then these people, they found out that you're with the drug issue that has been exploding worldwide after COVID. It was a problem because you had so many people that were forced to be idle, had nothing to do. And in some cases, they just turned to drugs for their recreation, and now they're just living that life. So homeless exists, and it's become a homeless issue here, where in the past it was something temporary and short term. And now it's, they're trying to make it permanent. So that's what I have to say about that. Let me take a look at the chat. Only one chat here. Good morning. Just making my cheese stuffed arepa for my breakfast. Now, are you making them, or are they pre-made? Because the weird way that they for the arepa, the cheese arepa, what they'll do is they'll take the farm cheese, the fresh cheese, and they'll crumble it up into the mix, and then they'll make it like that. I've had a lot of them that you couldn't even tell that there was any cheese in them. Of course, you're getting the nutrition, and that's what those were originally for. But it would be cool if they stuffed it with cheese. The only problem would be they would only use mozzarella in that case, because outside of traditional dishes, this country is fanatically in love with mozzarella. And the problem with mozzarella is the standard run-of-the-mill grocery store mozzarella really doesn't have much flavor. So yeah, stuff it with blue cheese or Monterey Jack, even or pepper jack. I mean, with some spice to it, or things like that. But Rob is sending me a message. What does Rob have to say? Well, he's sending me a YouTube video. Hold on here. I'm live. Rob can't look. There. Guess I told him, huh? All right. So what's my next thing? Oh, the riots. What the hell's going on with the riots? Now I know you guys aren't real big on. Some of you will put in chat, but I'll look up and I'll see, you know, especially in coffee time, I'll see 60, 70, 80 people sitting there, and I can barely get a chat out of somebody. Owen says, I've heard that Colombian pizzas are heavy on the cheese. Yeah, I've said this many times, but I'll say it again. Um, Pizza that's good is supposed to be the primary focus is the crust. If you don't have a good crust, you don't have a good pizza. The secondary focus is the sauce. Crust and sauce. That's what makes the pizza. Anything else is extra. In Colombia, crust makes no difference. It could be a piece of cardboard because it's only a delivery method for the cheese. The sauce doesn't matter because it's only, I mean, sometimes they have sauce that tastes like ketchup. Colombia, they just don't get it. And what they think, and I'm generalizing, but what they think is great pizza means that it's got lots of melty mozzarella cheese on it. Nothing else matters. So, yeah, Colombian pizzas are heavy on cheese because pizza is just a reason to deliver the cheese. They're cheese fanatics. Oop. Quit clicking on your name and click on the corn. I mix mozzarella with the corn flour, salt, and olive oil. Cool. My favorite is choclo, so I'll use the yellow corn and little salt. And I like to take, they have these cans of King corn. They're about that size. I think it's Xenu is the brand. And I'll take half of that and I'll throw it in the choclo mix, make it kind of liquidy, throw it in the pan. You can throw a little baking powder in there and it'll kind of expand from the baking powder in the pan cooked with butter, and it'll kind of puff up like that. Oh man, love those. But how is the quality of pizzas at Bianco's? Bianco's is pretty good. Bianco's, their primary function originally was a world-class bakery, I would say. I mean, they make great sourdough bread. I think it's the only place you can find sourdough here in Armenia. They'll bake eclairs, things that you don't typically see here. There's Italian heritage somewhere in those people. Hence, you've got the Italian restaurant, and then you've got the bakery. There's two locations. One's a bakery, cafe, and it's more of a sandwich menu, breakfast and sandwich menu. That's where they have the best eggs Benedict I've ever had. I've had it a million times. The sauce is never broken, which just blows my mind because that's not easy. And then you got the Italian restaurant, and the Italian restaurant has pizza, but it's also it's northern Italy based, and they make their own pasta. Their risotto is to die. It's killer risotto done right. Make their pasta, make their sauces, and make their pizza dough. Their pizza tends to be kind of crispy edges, very thin toppings. I'm from upstate New York, and we've got something called buffalo dough. And that's my favorite. And when I make pizza, that's usually what I'll make. And that's my preference. Now, some people prefer Detroit pizza. Some people like dish deep pizza. It's a question whether that's even pizza or not, but it's not that it's bad. It's more of a casserole. So you have different types of pizza. They make your Northern Italy type of pizza, but it's good. Basilica is also very similar, with a fired pizza oven, and they do it well. But the most popular pizzas are like Best Pizza. It's crap. It's just loaded with cheese. So that if you look at what people are eating here, they're eating pizza that has no focus on, because it's like, oh, pizza, I want to get a pizza. Yeah, where are you going to get it from? Here, such and such, and it comes, and it's like, really, you like this? Really, this is your favorite? And 9 times out of 10, they want it with pineapple and ham. I mean, come on, please. Does Pizza Alme mobile cart still exist? No, she had too many problems with location. All right, so we're on the riots, but these side trips help, so I don't mind at all. I see fewer and fewer people are showing up for these, so I imagine they're probably not that entertaining. Um, my thing has always been good information. That's what would draw people. Here, this is more just stuff. And because I'm not that entertaining, I think it's why I'm not getting a big draw. But, they're there to keep me going. And thank you. You helped me a lot. And a couple other people will step in sometimes. All right. So I've noticed that, again, since COVID, I mean, the world changed after COVID, but even recently, it seems to be just kind of blowing up. Everywhere you look, you're seeing these protests, or maybe riots might be a better word. But I don't mean the stuff that you've always seen. Like, I've got Greece here. Well, there's always been riots in Greece for one thing or another. It just happens. But not like what's going on now. They're mobilizing tens of thousands of people, and it'll be all over the country. I mean, these are serious. These aren't your garden variety. I'm going out to piss and moan, and we're gonna raise some hell. These are We're gonna topple the government level of riots, and so we're just seeing a bunch of those. So I got 3 clips. They're each about 2 minutes. Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. How you doing? I'm going to show those. Well, I'll do one at a time, and feel free to comment if you know something about it. The first one is Greece.
Fury and fire on the streets outside the Greek parliament in Athens. What started as a peaceful protest turned violent when some of the demonstrators threw petrol bombs, hurled projectiles and tried to storm barricades. Thousands of riot police were already on standby. Their response, firing water cannon and tear gas. This was the largest protest Athens had seen in years, and one of many across Greece, to mark the second anniversary of the country's worst rail disaster. 57 people died when a passenger train filled with students collided with a freight train.
For 2 years now, we've been living in an abyss of pain, loss and injustice.
Anger in Greece rose after an inquiry this week revealed the safety issues that caused the crash have not yet been addressed. A separate judicial investigation remains unfinished and no one has been convicted.
We feel angry. Angry for the fact that 57 souls lost their lives unfairly for the profits of the few.
We want to send a message to the government and the employers that we will not tolerate going to work, not knowing if we're going to come back home alive.
Greece's government has faced criticism for failing to launch a parliamentary inquiry into the crash. It says it's up to the judiciary to investigate, but is already working to make the country's rail network safer. Mazoe Ford, ABC News.
this morning I was looking at these again and reading some things, and like that one, it's talking about the train. There's another issue of in another country, a building falling down. There's like these triggers, but it seems like there's a common theme in all of these, no matter what country they're in. And maybe we can talk about that. Let's see. The next one I have is Serbia. Chat. Let's see. I make my own pizza. I pre-cook the dough before adding the sauce and cheese. I use the Napolitana sauce from De Uno, adding some salt and garlic powder. And you throw some oregano in there. That's probably going to be better than what you're going to get out in most cases. I tend to go crazy, but then I have a pizza background. I have a background in everything. Owen says, I heard of Tesla dealer fires, but not riots. Well, the reason you're seeing that in the U.S. is it turned out, I forget where I saw this yesterday, but some of the people that were arrested, turns out they were paid to do that. So somebody's funding that, which is why when you're seeing the videos of that, you'll see tens of people, but a lot of violence. So the point is, you don't have a ton of people, but you have a lot of violence. If you talk about smashing windows in a dealership and burning cars, and it's like that's the point. These other things, your typical run-of-the-mill, riots, but they're much larger, and they have a particular focus. All right, Serbia. This surprised me. I haven't heard Serbia in the news for a while.
This weekend, a tipping point in tensions that have racked Serbia for months. Anti-corruption protesters, riot police and supporters of President Aleksandar Vučić are all in town. A huge swell of people from all over the country, including bikers, tractor-driving farmers and teachers, have joined the core of anti-government demonstrators, a group of students who've been outside the president's office since December. All of them claim corruption is rife.
We are expecting to see this society free at last, as we have been trapped for years and decades in lies, crime, corruption and injustice.
We are the citizens who've been silent and suffered for years, and now it's time to show that we're actually the majority of decent people.
Less in evidence today are the supporters of President Vučić. His government claimed they're students fed up with university closures. The anti-corruption protesters say they're actually a group of former members of paramilitary units and known football hooligans. It was the collapse of a railway station roof in the town of Novi Sad, which killed 15 people back in November, that was the spark that ignited the last few months of unrest. A corrupt system of awarding government building contracts was widely blamed after it became apparent that safety regulations had been ignored. And 11 days ago, anger was apparent inside Parliament as opposition MPs let off smoke bombs and flares.
Very nice to see you.
On Tuesday, President Trump's son Donald Jr. was in Belgrade to meet President Vučić, who's been a vocal supporter of the current US administration. It's not clear what the exact purpose of the visit was. President Vučić claims that Western intelligence services have been behind recent demonstrations against him. None of those have come close to the size of today's protest, which has been peaceful so far.
Man, people don't want to talk about this. I got people dropping like flies off the channels, but I got to go. I got to go for time, and I found it interesting. I thought we could, maybe talk a little bit about it, but we'll see. I only have one more, and this is actually happening currently, and it has been for the last handful of days. Pretty, I don't know. I find it interesting.
The arrest of Istanbul's popular mayor sent supporters into the streets, triggering clashes with riot police and fueling fears about the country's further slide into authoritarianism. It's a coup, said this protester, a coup against democracy. As the twice-elected mayor of Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu was perhaps the second most powerful figure in the country and the main political rival to President Tayyip Erdogan. Authorities detained him, alleging corruption and ties to terrorism, just days before he was expected to be selected to lead his party against Erdogan in the next presidential vote.
Üzülerek söylüyorum.
Just before his arrest, İmamoğlu posted a video message accusing his opponents of using the police as a tool for evil and vowing not to give up. Erdogan has dominated Turkish politics for decades, first as prime minister and then as president. While the constitution doesn't permit him running for a third presidential term, he could get around that by triggering an early vote. And opponents say removing the popular İmamoğlu could be part of the plan. If that's the case, it's a massive gamble. Politically, Turkey has scored some big wins of late, including helping the opposition in Syria push out the Assad regime. Those successes could now be at risk, says this analyst.
So with this, the whole political, economic, and then the foreign policy picture has been poisoned. Societal discontent, the societal backlash will probably be very significant, will probably be huge.
Protests have been banned, although Wednesday night thousands of people came out anyway. Erdogan's officials meanwhile deny anything improper. They claim İmamoğlu's arrest had nothing to do with the president. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
So I thought something caught my eye when I was reading about this is it said that they were pulling the university degree from the guy that they arrested. And I didn't get that. And then I find out that in Turkey, in order to run for president, you're required to have a university degree. So they put him in jail, and then they went to the university and demanded that they pull the degree so that he wouldn't be eligible. So they all have in general their independent reasons, but what it all boils down to is corruption. In every case, it relates to corruption. In one of them, they're saying, well, it has to do with labor. Another, it's like shoddy workmanship. The last one, jailing your opponent. But it's all related to corruption. And it seems to me that a lot of this historically goes on. But it seems that of more recent, particularly after COVID, you have people that just won't put up with it anymore. I think what happened at COVID was so dramatic for people, and then finding out in the aftermath how many people were lied to, the companies like Pfizer that would go to a country like Colombia and pay them to put into place these mandatory vaccination things. This stuff was going worldwide. I think as people found out about that, it changed the way they viewed government, and it changed their tolerance level, because I think people are afraid that can all happen again. It doesn't need to have a virus to do it. And so I think people just don't have the level of tolerance, or maybe they don't have maybe they're not as blind as they once were. I don't know. What do you think about it? I mean, do you agree, disagree? Am I crazy? Doesn't matter because it's somewhere else. But personally, I see it everywhere. It's just whether it's happened to whatever degree. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, that's for sure. Okay, so no comments. Some of the people came back. Of course, those may be glitches because of the chat issue. I will announce again, and I will say it a few more times, that this Sunday's coffee time will not be on YouTube. It's causing issues for me. It will only be on Rumble. If you don't know the link or whatever, you can always send me an email. I posted up on my Facebook page the link. I actually put it in for coffee time. I'll put it in some pages like the Medellin Expat, the Candio page, the Coffee Country page. I don't know, whatever the names. There's like 5 or 6 places I will put it up because I was asked to, hey, can you post a link? And so I do it on a regular basis now. COVID exposed how corrupt corporations and governments are. Absolutely. I think it kind of took the blinders off. People that looked at things like that said, well, you're just a nut. You're a conspiracy theorist and all that. But then after COVID, those conspiracy theories turned out to be truth. I think conspiracy theories are now considered to be just facts. Okay. So, I have a little clip here, and then we're going to get on to Crashed Helicopter.
Myself.
Oh, babe, do you see that?
3 ducks walk into a bar. 3 ducks walk into a bar and order 3 beers. Say, what's your name? The bartender asked the first duck as he puts the beer in front of him. Harry, was the reply. How's your day been, Harry? Great. Lovely day. I had a ball. Been in and out of puddles all day. What else could a duck want? Nice, said the bartender, getting another beer. He turned to the second duck. And what's your name? Jerry, came the answer from duck number 2. So how's your day been, Jerry? He asked. Great, lovely day. I've had a ball too. Been in and out of puddles all day myself. What else could a duck want? The bartender turned to the third duck and said, So you must be Larry? No, she said, batting her eyelashes. My name is Puddles.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was cute. You probably all heard it before. I hadn't. And it's one of those, there's so much stuff now on Facebook. I'll go to look for something and, they've got this how to catch and capture people. Doesn't work real well, but occasionally it does. So I'll see something and it will go on forever. It's just trying to get these little stories and you realize it's sucking you in and you just stay there because you want to see the ending, but it's like the ending almost never comes. And so I'm leery of those, even clicking on something that might look interesting. On this one, it was obviously AI created photos. And because I've been playing with those so much over a year, I said, well, let's see what he did with this. And then it turned into the joke that I thought, well, that was pretty cute. So that's how that happened. Robert, glad you're growing on Rumble. Me too. It's amazing how fast it's coming along. And I'm just so tired of being restricted in every way. I guess I don't have it set up to well, let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. Bear with me here. Yeah, there it is. Here's an example. I wake up like almost every day to things like this. Port notification, video is blocked in some territories. Your video is Colombia, Good Choice to Live, 9 March, is blocked in some territories. It's maddening. And I get these all the time. That one was recent, and I think I got it the next day. But I'll get them from a video a year ago, 3 years ago. The one that went furthest back, I was still living in Ecuador, and that was, I think, at the beginning of this year, the end of last year. So that was like 6 years prior. And so it's been sitting there, no problem all this time. They're just constantly messing with me. All right, so let's get on to the story of crashing a helicopter. But I'm going to, because I got time to take up, but also give a little backstory. As many of you know, I joined the Marine Corps. They had a draft at the time with a lottery system, and my number was coming up, and I was bound to determine, well, if I have to go in, I'm going to go in and choose the best. And so I'm going to volunteer in the Marine Corps. So instead of two years in the Army, I got 4 years in the Marine Corps, but then I actually re-enlisted for a few more. And I went in with my best friend. We thought we'd do this together, except we ended up getting split up. I also went in with a guarantee. I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but I thought it would be pretty awesome to go to flight control school that's in Alabama. So I could sign up with an aviation guarantee, and my destination would be the flight control school. So out of boot camp, they would send me to basic helicopters, and then would send me to flight control school. So I said, well, that's awesome. Well, my best friend, he chose, I don't know, something. He ended up basically a glorified grunt. And so we did run into each other a couple times over those years, but not very much. And we didn't have communication then, we didn't have the cell phone and all of that. So we lost touch for big areas at a time. That's so petty of you too. Yeah, no kidding. Welcome to my world. So I go to boot camp, get out of boot camp. In boot camp, I was tagged. I did pretty well actually in boot camp. I got a job in boot camp. It's called the platoon scribe. That's where you get these little 3x5 cards, and you have to keep the schedule and keep everybody on schedule. Just different things. It's kind of like an executive assistant for the drill instructors. And we had 12. Our platoon had 12 drill instructors. Now you get 3, but this was back when there was a lot of abuse going on, and people were showing up at sick bay with smashed teeth and some serious stuff. And so they would come in and do an investigation, and then they would pull the drill instructors and assign some new ones. So we went through 12. Last 3 were pretty awesome guys, but I was a scribe for those things. So when we did graduation, you have 4 people that get awarded graduation dress blues out of your platoon. And you also have, I don't remember the number, it's more than 4, but it's not very many. You get a meritorious promotion from private, which is no stripe, to PFC, which is 1 stripe. And so I managed to get out with that stripe, which is, pretty cool because you get a little bit more money, probably $10 a week or something. But, it feels like something. All right. I can't show it on the screen here, but it says, I still see people wearing masks, if you can believe that. Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre since they don't work anyway. All they're saying is, I'm a lefty progressive liberal. That's the statement. My dad was in the Marines, part of the CB stationed in Okinawa, Japan. Awesome. I was in Okinawa for a while. Went into the service with your best friend. Sounds like the movie Stripes. Yep. That was an awesome movie. That's a fact, Jack. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So anyway, so I get out of boot camp and I go to Basic Helo School, which is in Memphis. So I go to Memphis and it was a pretty good time. I lived in a nasty little trailer, some kind of trailer park. These things were chintzy. They had tornadoes come through while I was there, and it didn't hit our trailer park. But I found out that there's a magnet between a trailer park and a tornado, and somehow a tornado knows to look for a trailer park. And this thing, it couldn't have had any kind of construction standard, so it was probably built in the 40s or 50s because you could poke your finger through the walls practically. But it didn't matter, so we had a good time. We'd get together, the group of us, it was a small group, and, we'd drink beers and barbecue meat and stuff like that. So I go to the classes. So I got a couple pictures here. As I mentioned last week, somebody called me on it. I said, well, I was young and handsome and like that. Well, here's my my graduation picture. Look like a baby. But that's my graduation picture. I wonder what that divide is. I got something else on the screen here. And this was right after the Helo school. And I was going overseas for the first time. Yeah, Mr. Rico Suave there. So anyway, I go to the Basic Helo School. Here's my class. I put a little blue arrow up at the top pointing to me. I'm 5'10", and the people that were kneeling were basically like 5'8" or so. And the guys next to me were basically about 6 foot or my height. And you see there's two Navy because the helicopter they're standing in front of is a CH-46, which is also used in the Navy. They use it for submarine and search and rescue and things like that. And so we had a couple squids there, and then that was my class. And when the class was over, I told this story, so I'm not going to repeat the story. But when it's over, you get your orders for your next assignment. And I got my assignment to go to New River, North Carolina, to go overseas. And I didn't get the air traffic control. I was blessed that I didn't get it. I would have ended up living my life in the same job and not doing the things I did. So anyway, I end up overseas. And while I'm overseas, we get this duty assignment. Well, I became a crew chief along the way. I was overseas. They sent me back to California to do crew chief training. You had to have some things outside of it, but there was an actual not a class, but a squadron dedicated to creating crew chiefs. So you would actually go out and perform various duties. You'd shoot machine guns out of the helicopter. You did all kinds of. You'd have to go to the where you go down backwards in a seat into the pool, and you have to get yourself all. You're in all your clothes and boots and your helmet. You go upside down and backwards in the pool, and you got to get yourself out. And then you've got the blind, you're in this big gyroscope kind of thing, and you got a blindfold on, and they spin you, and you got a stick, and you've got to kind of figure out how to upright yourself, which is bizarre. I mean, you manage to do it, but you don't know how you did it because you're completely lost. Vertigo is a thing. So we go through all that kind of stuff, and then a lot of flights, and then you get awarded your wings, and then went back overseas. That was like a 3-month period, I think. So when I'm overseas, attached to the squadron. We're getting tons of hours in. I got this duty assignment where in my squadron, 4 helicopters, 4 of us, we each had our own helicopters, were assigned to take recon rangers. That's the Marine Corps version of Special Forces. Take a crew of them to the Philippines for 1 month of jungle training. Training that later I discovered and went through, but not at this time. Pretty wicked. So anyway, so we get assigned to go. Now I'm going to show you, we left from Okinawa, Japan. I'm going to put a map up here. So up at the top, too small to see, but it says Naha. That's, I had to blow the map up. The island's so small, it's just not really even showing on the map. If you go right straight up from that, you see a little bit of land. That's actually the southern portion of Japan. So Okinawa is between Taiwan and Japan, and it's probably a little closer to China than it is to Japan, but it belongs to Japan. The Ryukyu Islands, these are all Japanese. So we flew from there over water to Taipei, Taiwan. And then we got a day off, and then we flew to Tainan at the southern end of the island, somewhere in there. And then the next morning, we flew over water to Poro Point. That was the longest flight by a helicopter over water that ever took place. Was that? It was some world record. So that was kind of cool. Of course, we had 2 big fiberglass internal tanks, and by the time we got there, we were on fumes. But we made it. It was all calculated out okay. As long as you didn't get a headwind, you were good to go. So while I'm in Okinawa, we're preparing for this. Now, I don't know how much you know about helicopters, but they're not supposed to fly. They're constantly breaking down. They're very complicated, and it's very difficult to keep them up. If you have a squadron of 12 helicopters, you're lucky if you can get 4 or 5 at a time on any given day off the ground. And the others, because it's the Marine Corps and because the funding was always terrible, you'd have one that would be down for a while and you'd just start stealing parts off it. Or you would sneak over to another squadron in the evening and steal parts off of one of their helicopters. It was an issue. So we had to prepare, and we're going to be doing all this over water, all these hours of flight without being able to do any kind of maintenance. We didn't get any sleep. I think I went about 3 days with little to no sleep. So we go flying. Now, a little side step here. I was asked this a while back, so I'll throw it into the story. Were you a pilot? No, I was not a pilot. I was a crew chief. And somewhere in a coffee time a long time ago, I said something about flying a helicopter. This is what happened in those days. This was Vietnam era. What happened in those days is a pilot wanted the crew chief to know how to fly, because if they got shot or whatever, the more people that could get that helicopter back to base, the better off it was. It was a self-preservation thing. And so your pilots in those days would give you stick time. They'd have you come up, they'd explain poorly, and they would just kind of throw it in a sink or swim kind of thing. And then what would happen is the pilots, you're always in helicopters, you're always deprived in sleep, because these things, the tasks that you're asked to perform are all hours of the day or night, preparation, all the things you have to go through. You don't sleep much. Overseas, same job in the United States was like a 9-to-5 job, but overseas, I mean, you're lucky if you got 2-3 hours sleep. And after a while, sometimes that kind of builds up and you're just so exhausted. And so what the pilots would do once they get a little confidence in you, is they would give you the stick, and then they would go in the back and go to sleep, depending on what the mission was. If they could catch an hour sleep, they would go back and do it. So I ended up with, I don't remember, it was more than 1,000 hours of actual flight time. I kept track because there's nothing officially that wasn't officially it wasn't permitted, but they all did it. Well, there was one exception. We had this one pilot who was kind of a prick and nobody wanted him. What would happen is you're responsible for the helicopter. It's your helicopter. Your name's on it. You have to do the QA inspections, but then you have somebody coming behind for the squadron to follow behind. It's your thing. The pilots, basically, they would just select who they want to fly with, what helicopter you want to go in. Seniority would always get the choice, and the odd man out would be the newest guy. And so they would have their favorites. I very often had the same or just a couple different pilot crews, because mine was the first choice because I was good at keeping that thing up. And they liked that they could just kind of come out, fly, come back, and not have any issues. And so I was a popular choice. And remember I said I was arrogant and cocky and all of that? Well, that was part of it. It's like I'm just so damn good, right? Let me check the chat here. Nope. All right. I don't want to leave you hanging too long if you have a comment. So here we are, not getting any sleep, getting these helicopters ready, 4 of us. So we fly down to where are they? To Taipei, which is on Taiwan. It's a capital city. So we fly in, and it was pretty interesting because everything there is mobilized. A child's wagon will have a number stenciled on it because it's subject to mobilization. Anything with wheels is subject to mobilization because of the fear of being attacked by China. That's been going on forever. And when you fly into this airport, you see anti-aircraft guns trained on you and follow you down. Even though you're a helicopter, you approach airports like an airplane. You kind of fly in like that, and then you just kind of flare at the end. It's a lot less strain on the helicopter to use the air cushion to fly rather than mechanically do everything to hold yourself up and hover. So you just you fly in like that and land. And so that was strange, seeing these aircraft guns, and they got all these sandbags around them and stuff. And go, what the hell? And when we come in, it was very strict. They search you and all of this stuff. And then once you get through that, it's like they love you. So go from the airport, and it was very close, maybe across the street or a block or 2 away. Don't remember exactly, but it was a hotel. It was known for that. It was a nice hotel, not like the one in Tokyo I talked about, but a pretty nice hotel. So I go to the hotel. I'm exhausted. I need a shower and get some sleep. So I get the keys. I go up. I don't even remember. At the time, I don't remember what was going on. I go up to the room. Yeah, decent room. I take a quick shower. I crash on the bed. I'm on my back and just don't remember going to sleep. Well, the weird thing is, and I'm going to keep this PG, I woke up with a girl laying across, head to head, feet to feet, laying on top of me. Pretty freaked me out. What the hell's going on? I about threw her on the floor, and she just came to hang out with me. This was her. I never found out how she got in the room. I have no idea why she got in her. Well, I asked her. I said, well, I saw you in the lobby, and I just decided to come up and meet you. Yeah, but my room was locked. How did you get in? I never got an answer. I don't know what that was about. And it's not like she ever asked for something. It's not like she was a on-site hooker or something. I thought at first maybe, my guys set something up. I had no idea, but it turned out she was pretty cool. I had the next day, I had 24 hours. And so she offered to take me around town. She actually took me to see her parents. In this photo, those are the doors to her parents' apartment. It turned out her family was very wealthy. She didn't tell me that, but you go into that apartment and the kind of stuff that was in that apartment is like, holy moly. I'm in an apartment, but it looks like a castle. I mean, it was all top grade stuff. So anyway, she took me around and we stopped and got street food and she showed me different things. That was very cool. Went back to get some sleep and she tucked me in. Next morning I wake up and then fly down to Tainan. And I would like to tell you a story about that, but I can't tell you. And it's not to do with me. It's a friend of mine. His name was Hernandez. We called him Taco because he insisted on being called Taco. And something occurred there. I would love to tell that story, but I can't tell it in this forum. It was very funny. Anyway, so I got to Tainan. Now we're going to do the big long flight. And again, so Tainan, it kind of loops around bottom of Taiwan. Then I fly down. You'll see a marker there, and it says Poro Point. And this is the northernmost part of the Philippines, and it's right there. And as a matter of fact, a close-up here, if you look, I can't show you, I can't use the pointer, but kind of the middle of the landmass, down near the bottom of this picture, you'll see Baguio. That's Baguio. That's a mountain area. And over here with a marker, that's Poro Point. Now let me kind of hone in on, this is a close-up of Poro Point, and you'll see all this brown area. That's actually an Air Force station. Not much of one. It's got a little barber shop. It's got a couple barracks. It's got a mess hall. It's got some refuel tanks. But there's not much there. But that's where we're going on the return flight. And so, I'll show you again when we get there. So we get to the Philippines. We tanked up in Poro Point and just left there and went down to the Subic Bay area. And there's a helicopter. I think it might have been Navy. I don't remember. It could have been Navy administrated, could have been Marine administrated. I don't remember. And that's where we were. And so every morning at 3 or 4 o'clock, go down and pre-flight the helicopter, get everything ready, go fly for the day, come back at night and go to sleep and repeat. We're there for 30 days, taking recon rangers out to different areas, and they would rappel down out of the helicopter and off we'd go. Some things happen, but that's for another day. So I get through it. During those 30 days, my helicopter was the only helicopter that made every flight. One would go down for one thing or another would go down, and they would get back up, but I was the only one. Not surprising, that was kind of my track record. That's why I had a white scarf and all the crazy stuff. So anyway, time to go. So we're gonna fly back the same way. So we fly up to Poro Point. We got these big fiberglass tanks installed again in the helicopter, 2 of them, and we're gonna top them off at Poro Point, and then we're gonna fly back to Taiwan, just repeat. So here we are flying into, remember this is Poro Point. I kind of traced out, as I recall, I remember the approach actually. We kind of flew around the tip here, and you'll see there's a line, up and down a line that goes to a dashed line and an X. What happened where that line was, we were at 500 feet. I was sitting behind the pilots. I had a first mechanic sitting in the back of the helicopter and two pilots. The co-pilot had just met up with us. He was some rookie that came from the US. He didn't know anything about anything. So I never even learned his name. So he was there, but it was a pilot I was very familiar with. So, well, that pilot actually was with us for the month, and I'd known him for some time prior to that. So where that line is up and down at 500 feet, the rotors desynced. They're no longer synchronized. You got the front and you got the back, and when they come around, they've got to do something like that. Whoops! I can't do this on looking at the screen. So it's synchronized, do something like that. And if it's desynced, what happens? It comes around, they just hit each other. So we desynced, violent shudder. Some blades went flying. They went thousands of feet, a couple of them. Didn't do any damage. Very fortunate. Didn't do any damage. Kind of landed on the ground. One kind of buried itself in a bit. And from that point on, we just dropped. That's not a long distance. And we just there was nothing to give us lift. We just fell out of the sky. Where that X is, if you'd gone northeast of that X, that field there, that's actually where we're supposed to land. And there's a couple round things. These are recent Google pictures, and where everything that happened later away from this air station, it was unrecognizable and very different. But this air station doesn't look like it's changed a bit. Everything looks like identical. So where those round things are, that's where we're going to refuel and then leave from there. So we crashed. So the other helicopters, a couple landed already. I think there was one behind us. He circled around for a while, and then he came in and landed. And we crashed short in that field. And that field had kind of a long slope to it. And we crashed down here. So when we hit, you can imagine we hit kind of hard. And the pilot probably saved our lives because he was aware enough to reach up and shut the engines off. They're jet engines, turbo shaft engines, same as a jet engine. And he killed them so that it didn't have a live flame when we hit. So that was quite a blessing. But we got out of it with no injuries, and I'll describe it here in just a minute. Let me show you. First, I'm going to show you what the first mechanic did to this helicopter the night before. That's me, and that's my unauthorized cap that I would wear. And if you look over my shoulder, you see the S. That's supposed to be a Superman S. The first mechanic the night before painted it on, that's armor plating. He painted it on that armor plating. I wasn't aware of it. He did it as a surprise. And I said something to the effect about him jinxing us. And, we kind of laughed about it. But, later I said, my arrogance came back to haunt us, and I was swatted out of the sky by God. We never should have put that S because I was so arrogant. And at the time, you're kind of wondering, did it come back to bite? Now, in this picture, this is later, after things kind of settled down, I went back and we all took pictures of each other. If you look at the side of this helicopter, you could see there's oil all over it. And if you look at my bent knee and go straight to the left, you'll see a lot of ripples. Let me draw back on that picture a little bit. You'll see those ripples. Now, I've had people look at this photograph and they say, well, what's wrong? It looks normal. It just looks like the doors are popped off, but it looks normal. Well, let me give you a close-up of the back. So there's the back. That thing's supposed to be up in the air about 15 feet. You can see the ramp and everything's kind of crushed down below it. And you can see an outlet here where that black paint is, that outlet, that's the exhaust for the jet engine. There's one on each side. And all this oil that, if you can see it, is streaked. And inside it was just soaked with hydraulic fluid and jet fuel. But there was no flame to set things off. They don't go up like gasoline, but they definitely would have burned had they been running. Let's see. I'll do a couple of chats and we'll get back on the story. Sebastian, how you doing? I want to quit my job and move to Armenia, but I don't have Social Security until 70. We have Social Security at 62. And we've a few of us have hashed this out over and over. And if you're living in this place based on the cost of living, you are far ahead by cashing out at 62 versus 65 or 70 because of the how much less things cost here than in the USA, more than makes up for that difference. Baguio is one of the colder cities in the Philippines. Well, we'll say cooler, but yeah, definitely. There's a few. That's the most famous one. That's the most crowded one. That's where most expats want to go if they want cooler air. But yeah, that's true. That's why I pointed that out, actually. Hold on a second. Okay. Sharik is overpaying my parking ticket at Transito. And that's why I looked, because I saw it's her. She knows I'm doing the video, but she wanted to let me know that when I'm done here to come in the car and pick her up, because apparently she walked there. So doesn't want to walk back. She can take a taxi, but I don't know. All right. So let me look back at the chat again. It's the only way I can keep up with us. Okay, so we did the crash. When we hit, it was kind of funny. I jumped out. Well, there was a couple things I had to do, and I'm getting ready to jump out. And the first mechanic who was in the back comes running up, and he stops there right in front of me, and he's like this, helmet on and stuff. And so I grabbed it, because you don't know what's going to happen. So the whole point is get away from it as quick as possible. So I grabbed him and I threw him out the door. And he did a tumble. And the pilot, he was out like that. He popped his door. The co-pilot, the new guy, he was sitting there like in shock or stunned or something. I don't know. He was sitting there like an idiot. He wasn't doing anything. And so I think the pilots had let him burn. It's like I ran around to the other side. I opened from the outside his hatch, and he kind of woke up and pulled himself out. Then we were at the slope, as I said, and it kind of went up. So we ran up to the top of this slope, and the first mechanic, he was still on the ground on his hands and knees. I grabbed him by his collar as I came back around from the front, and I kind of was half dragging him, and then he got up and ran. So here the four of us standing next to each other in a row, looking down, and we realized, took the helmets off. It was super quiet. Like we weren't hearing anything. The other helicopters had already, they were quiet, and it was bizarre because of what we just went through. It's like, where's all the noise? Where's the commotion? Where's the fire? And we're kind of, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. You sure? And I mean, we didn't have a bruise on. Not one of us had as much as a bruise, and it was a pretty hard hit. So that was pretty awesome. I have a. Owen, were you scared when the blades desynced and the helicopter started to fall? Now, I mentioned this before, and this isn't hype, and this isn't just me making stuff up. I went through most of my life not really understanding fear. I don't know why. I seem to lack the fear gene. I learned what it was eventually, but I was like in my 30s, late 30s, before I ever experienced that I remember any sensation of fear. I kind of raised myself, and I lived kind of a rugged life. And in the Marine Corps, I mean, I don't know. You focus on the job. I think maybe when you're focused on what you're doing, you just don't have time for fear. I don't know, but no, I didn't have any fear. I will say that sometime after it had an effect, it kind of freaked me out. Maybe there was some fear. I don't know what you would call it, and I'll explain it today. But no, I didn't have fear. So my helicopter crashed. It's my helicopter, my name on it. Woohoo! They all got to leave. I was told to stay with the helicopter. An accident investigation crew would be there in about a week, and then I would work with the accident investigation crew. We would go through whatever, determine the findings, and then I could leave. And when I left in this little, it was Navy, but it was like a little bitty private jet. It was a Learjet, a little bitty thing. It was the kind that an admiral would fly around in. It was very cool. So I got to leave in that. I'd never been in a jet like that was all plushed out. So that was pretty cool. But so I'm there for a week with nothing to do. And there's no barracks assignment. There was no place where they could keep me there. So nearby, there was a resort. Now, these things do not show up on Google Map. But if you were where this crash happened, if you would go down to where the ocean is, and then you go down towards the bottom edge of that picture, there was this, it was a resort. It was a single story. It had average, this was a while ago. The rooms were nothing fancy. At the time, they were nice. Today, it would be, this would be like a Hotel 6 or something. But it was a nice room. So I got a room, and I got room service. Everything was on the military, so I could have room service, and they just pay the tab. Don't worry about it. Just do what you're going to do. And in the front of the building, they had these little, what do you call them? IPA huts? I forget what they're called. Just little bamboo huts with a grass roof right at the edge of the beach. And you got a beach there. And you could, sit down in one of these, and you got the cool breeze coming through on hot days, but you're out of the sun and breeze. And they're bringing you out, bringing me out drinks. And it was pretty awesome. I just have to go back and check in every once in a while to make sure that they hadn't arrived yet. I found out because they got assigned to the same little hotel that, whatever it was, they got assigned to the same one. And it started off pretty bad because the guy who was in charge of the investigation just found me and started giving me a whole bunch of crap about what am I doing, and you're in the Marine Corps, and what am I supposed to be doing? I'm doing what I was told to be doing. It's like we hit it off bad. And I was, as you know, I was very arrogant, and I wouldn't take a lot of crap. And so I thought I would end up in a lot of trouble over this because we had kind of an ugly confrontation. I found a place. I don't think this is a place, but it's somewhat similar. Instead of the umbrella area, they were like little huts, but they were open. They had a roof and a bamboo platform, and it had little short bamboo sides, and they would have a couple chairs and a little table, and there was a whole bunch of those, but they were spread apart a little further. And there was a pool at this place. This may have been the same place. I don't really know. This is off Google. I was looking for pictures of it. I couldn't find it, but this kind of rang a bell. So I don't know. There's not a lot in that area, actually. So I stayed there. It had, one of the reasons I was getting the dressing down was because I had a lot of visitors while I was there. Yeah, well, yeah. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And so, Anyway, so we get to the accident investigation, and they've got all kinds of test equipment and some pretty good stuff. It's like, why can't we have that kind of stuff? And they had engineering diagrams and all kinds of stuff, blueprints. We were assigned this office area, and they had all this stuff in there. So we go out to the helicopter. I knew what was wrong because I'd seen it before. On the helicopter blades, see if it shows in that one picture. Not exactly, but if you look at the front, you'll see the helicopter blade, but then there's like this coupling that takes it back to the rotor head. In that coupling, what you'll have is a dampener, like a shock absorber. And so the blade will have a lead and lag to it, a movement to it. It can't be rigid. So it's got that. And this dampener kind of cushions it so it doesn't flop around. Well, I had already seen on previous flights where the dampener would crack. And when it would crack, it would lose oil. And I'd actually filed a report on it some months prior because I had seen a few. And when something like that, then it's like it's not like a one-off. There's an issue here. And so I had filed a report on it. And so we get up there and we look, and part of it was mangled, but there was another dampener that it wasn't mangled up, and it had a crack in it. And I said, well, this is what it is, because if you lose that dampener, you can desync by actually colliding. The thing will, it'll go so hard and just kind of snap, and then they'll collide. So anyway, I pointed that out, and they're telling me, no, that's not what it is, and da-da-da-da-da. We got in a big argument over it. And I wouldn't sign off on the report. I was supposed to sign off, and I thought that would hold it up. But no, we'll just submit it without your signature. I did file a report on it later once I got back to my regular squadron. And I got a lot of crap over it. A year later, Boeing had a recall, essentially, on these dampeners. But at the time, I mean, I was threatened, and it was an ugly scene. And the nearest I could figure out is it was a cover-up. That for whatever reason, they didn't want to admit that these helicopters were in danger of falling out of the sky. I don't know if Boeing had anything I don't know. I just know that it was bizarre because the evidence was there. I don't even remember what they came up with, but it was absurd. It was an absurd position that they took when we could actually see what the problem was. And I'd seen it before. And a month after we got back, my friend Mr. Hernandez, Taco, he was out flying and he crashed, and it was a dampener. And they argued about it then also, but he also walked away. He had some kind of injury, but he was basically okay. I think he just didn't fly for a week or so. I don't remember exactly. He didn't come out unscathed, but he didn't have anything serious. And so we were all talking about it, and everybody's being especially cautious, kind of look for these things. They were not the easiest to see. Sometimes they were evident, but a lot of times they were, so it was so tight that you didn't really see it. So we just got more creative. We'd take dye and kind of squirt it on it, and if it could find a crack, it would kind of walk along the crack and show a color. I mean, hell, we got to fly in these things. We don't want to crash and die or crash and burn. So that's how I got in helicopters, and that's how the helicopter crashed. And my adventure while I was there, that was my first trip to the Philippines. I was there a month, didn't get to see a whole lot of it, but I remember walking down from where we were staying. I'll tell you a couple things that I remember. I've never been one for hookers or sex shows or things like that. I don't know. I'm not a prude. I don't care if somebody does it. It just never turned me on. It was never anything I wanted to be involved in. So walk down and you go across this bridge, and the bridge goes over what they called Shit River. And on this bridge, if you would take a peso coin, which is like a $50 size, if you take a peso coin, you would flip it off, they would have these kids that would dive off the bridge into the water, find the coin. They called it Shit River because it was open sewer. I'm sure today it's not like that, but then it was like that. I mean, it smelled and it was gross. And so you get to the other side of the bridge, and you'd be mobbed by these kids for peso, and the poverty was unbelievable at the time. I had a girl approach me, and she wanted to sell herself, which was common. She wanted to sell herself, and I no, I'm not interested. And she kept bargaining, and I'm supposed to go meet some friends, and she's trying to accost me. And finally, she bargained herself down to a 5-pound bag of rice. And now it's like, all right, what's going on? What's up? Why do you want rice? So she says, come with me. So I said, okay. So I walked with her. It wasn't far. We got to this little tin shack. When I say shack, I'm being generous. It was just on the dirt ground, there was some corrugated steel on the sides and on the roof. And that was it. There was a little fire pit dug in the ground. Inside was her mother and her baby. And they hadn't eaten in a while. And she was out trying to find food to feed themselves. And this, I mean, it's horrible when you're in that kind of situation. You feel, well, you know how you'd feel. And so I said, I got to go. So come with me. Went back and I bought the biggest bag they had. It was like a 15 or 20 pound bag of rice. And I bought it and I gave it to her. And the thing was, it was only a couple dollars. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was probably the cost of a bottle of beer. So I gave it to her, and I got, well, welcome to the Philippines, so I meet up with my friends. All they wanted to go do was go to strip clubs, which bored me to tears. And get drunk on San Miguel beer. They go to these strip clubs, and I would hang out, and then I'd go back to the barracks because I was bored. And then one night we went out. We went to this show club, and in this show club it was crazy. I ended up leaving there too. I say I'm not a prude, but we all have if I don't have any interest in something that's going on. So it started off with a show with a overly young girl with ping pong balls of different colors. And then there was another girl, I swear she was probably 10 years old, that was getting ready to do something. And they brought this little miniature donkey out. That's when I left. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to know. I'm out of here. And I caught some crap for bailing on it, but it's not my thing. Yeah, well, you only get to go to the Philippines once in your life. I got a lecture later about it. And it's, yeah, well, I don't care. And so that was my experiences in the Philippines, because it was mostly work, but you get an hour here, hour there, a couple hours, and instead of sleeping, you kind of go off and let off some steam. And so there was that. I got out in town over that month probably 15 times or so. There was one thing that we did where we actually had most of the day off, or most of the evening off, and we went to this area on a beach, and there was some retired Marines there. They had sponsored this, or I don't remember exactly what. I wasn't part of it. They kind of sponsored it, and there was a pig roast. There was some Filipinos there that were kind of turning this thing around in a big open pit, and there's drinks, and it was in the evening. And I remember going out swimming, and you had all these little luminescent things. So when you'd swim and the water kind of roll away, it would light up. It was very cool. And then I was out there with some friends. We were just kind of paddling around, and there's a lot of sharks in these waters, and it's true, there is. And we kind of said, all right, I've had enough swimming. It's like, I don't know. It seems like we're just kind of bait, so we left. Had a great time at the pig roast. There were a lot of people started showing up, and it was more boring and routine, which is, it's kind of what I am. Dan, I used to drive limos for private parties. Strip clubs are pretty sad when you're the only sober guy in the place. Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, I wasn't one. I like to drink, and I went through a period of time where I was getting drunk a lot, but for the most part, I don't want to just sit and drink and, stare at a girl on a pole that I'm never going to. It's not like any kind of relationship. I don't have time for this stuff. It's just, all right, 10 minutes, fine. But after that, what are you doing? You might as well just go stare at the wall. I was too active. It just wasn't for me. Okay. Checking for the chats. I'm waiting for oh, come on, you're just a prude. Come on. Yeah, I heard it then. But I had a nice time at the pig roast. And then we flew back, and, that all happened. So I thought I was going to get in some serious trouble. I started keeping a book. I don't know if I still have it. I lost a lot of stuff in a move once. All my pictures of the couple times to the Philippines, of Vietnam, I had tons of pictures, and they were all in this box, and most of them I'd done with to make slides. So it's a different film, and most of them were for slides. And I had a bunch of slides that were made, and in that box was a slide projector, and because it just looked so much better. And I lost all of that. I lost several years of every picture that I had. Basically, it was heartbreaking. Lost or stolen, I don't know. So I don't have any photographs of that time, really. The photographs of the crash, that wasn't even mine. That was sent to me later by, obviously I didn't take it. It was taken for me. It was sent to me later. And the other pictures of that, it came off of Google. So Okay, so why don't we have a pig roast in Colombia? Well, they have lechon, and it is a disappointing thing for me. I point out all the issues in Ecuador because God knows if there's not plenty. But one thing they get right is they'll have pig roasts. Well, I should. Some of the pig roasts are awesome, and they're just what you'd expect it to be. Pig over charcoal, and oh my God, so good. Then they have these others that are actually in one area of the city where they take a blowtorch to the outside and artificially kind of cook the outside, and it's not cooked. They give the appearance that it's cooked properly, but it's not. And I didn't know that at first. I got sick eating at one of those places. I forget the name of that street, but it was famous for the pig roast, but they were awful. But there are other places you can go and have real pig roast. But when they did a pig roast, whether it was done right or not, it was like a whole pig and cooked in pig meat. Well, in Colombia, it goes back to the days when there was so much poverty and starvation and malnutrition. They didn't have the luxury of taking a pig and making that a meal. They had to make it stretch. And so what they do is they would pull all the pig meat out of the pig, and they would have it, in pans. And then they would take cooked rice with spices or whatever they could come up with, and they would stuff it, or they would mix it with the pig meat, and they would stuff it back inside the pig. And that's called lechon here. Now, lechon is pig, and lechon in Philippines is a pig roast, but here it's with rice, so it's like pig roast watered down. And they'll take some of the crackling and they'll maybe put it on top of your dish, but it's just not the same. And I don't hate rice, but I don't love rice. I don't go out of my way. If I get one of the Colombian lunches, the famous cheap lunches, I pretty much always tell them, unless I forget, don't put any rice on it, save the rice for somebody else. So it's a disappointment for me here that I don't have that place to go to. However, there are restaurants. They're called barril, like barrel. That they're restaurants, but they have these big round barrels with charcoal, and they hang the meat over the side, and it gets high temperature roasted, so the outside is kind of crunchy and be very juicy. And they cut it into small bits, and then you sit down and you have a pile of it. You can get that. It's similar, but on a pig roast, you pull meat out that's just so soft and falling apart. The crunchy bits are just the outside bits, but the inside is just that real smooth and very juicy meat, almost a sweet meat. And when you have the thing here at the restaurant, you don't really get that part of it. You get the crunchy part, which is probably the best, but you miss the real juicy meat. So that's a downside, but it's a cultural thing. There was a reason for it, and then because that's what people ate and have memories and family and family reunions and parties, and so that's very popular here. And the weird thing is, when they have these international foods and some of the most with rankings, this ranked like right at the top or near the top last year, which really surprised me. But if you really like rice, it is unique to Colombia. But it was necessity is the mother of invention. It's a great way to spread food to feed tens of times 10 more people. Owen, I love pig roast. Yeah, they're awesome. Other things I miss in upstate New York, we would have clam bakes. That's awesome. You could go buy a 50-pound bag of clams, And in Canandaigua, New York, you've got Canandaigua Lake, and then there was a little island that you could swim out to. You could take a little boat out. It was called Squaw Island. There was some Indian store. It's all Indian country there, and so we go out there, and they don't permit it anymore. But we kind of go out there and congregate, and we'd have this 50-pound bag of clams. They were little neck clams, and then we would have kegs of beer. So we'd start up a fire, and we would steam the clams. And we'd also have corn on the cob. So you have corn on the cob and clams, lots of butter, and drink beer. Fall asleep 3:00 in the morning. It was awesome. I miss clam bakes. I miss haddock. I loved haddock. Fish fries on Friday are a huge thing where I'm from, and you could do it with cod, but it's a haddock thing. And I haven't found it. There's no source here that I know of. Now I know I could do a long distance of frozen from some, but that kind of stuff tends to be pretty expensive, and so I don't do it. But I do miss haddock a lot. So I say there's nothing you can't find here in Columbia. Well, there's that. You can get clams here. It's not the same, but it tastes similar. You can get clams here, but you can't get haddock, or at least I've never found it. All right, so we're running. I got 10 more minutes or so. I'm not getting any chats. I still have some people. Some are dropping off. Remember, I will tell you again, I will not be on YouTube for Coffee Time Sunday. It will be Rumble only because I'm tired of YouTube interfering with my chat. So all of these Rumble chats I can't put on the screen. The ironic thing is I can put YouTube. Now, if you were here Tuesday, I told you about how the first chat will go through, and after that, no more will go. Well, here I did the first one this morning. I said good morning. And you see it's got the Rumble logo on there. That was the one and only. And it was the same with the it's the same account with the Locals. That's the Locals brand. And so those basically get pushed out of the road, and YouTube, my YouTube account is the only one. My private account, which I did Tuesday, didn't interfere. And that's how I know I was able to narrow it down. That's why I tried it today. And, the only common factor is my YouTube account. Okay. Yeah, they poisoned it. Get a little water. All right. I don't know how to get past the what we have here. Malgonzo. I'm going to have to download Rumble. Have no clue how to use it. You don't have to download it, and the use is pretty much, it's very similar. You can get it right off of the, open it up on the internet like you would YouTube. You can download it. I have it on my TVs. I have it on my phone. I mean, they have apps. You can download it. It's very simple. It's different than YouTube in how the channel structures, which I explained earlier. The main Grand Columbia is my account, but under that account, I have Grand Columbia, all one word, no capitals. That's my Colombian account. And then I have Sane in Columbia, which I'm on right now. That's my personal account. And then I have Coffee Time Exotics. That's, coffee information and stuff. So I have 3 channels, and it's under one account. Have you been outside yet? Is everyone looking forward to the game tonight? I'm curious. Do you watch soccer matches? No. Football? No, I don't have any interest at all. Never did. Hated it in school. Used to aggravate me because all the schools around us had football programs and we didn't. And we were supposed to be consoled because, well, we had an Olympic-sized pool. And we did. It was an amazing pool indoors. But we didn't have football. And so I didn't grow up with football. My first time I actually played any football was in the Marine Corps. It was a typhoon was hitting, which is a hurricane. And the winds were up, and we've been getting these horrendous rainfalls. And it wasn't to the point where it was all that wicked, but it was very sloppy. I mean, and everybody wanted to go play some football. I didn't know what to do. And so I said, well, I don't know what to do. And so they told me, well, you stand here. If this guy tries to get by you, you try to stop him, and like that. So here we are standing in mud that ended up being like a foot in mud. It started out with just kind of a muddy field. We destroyed it. And it was so ridiculous. Nobody could move anywhere. You just slip and fall, and it was crazy. But I loved it. The contact, and it was a lot of fun. And so after that, I looked for opportunities to get involved in it, and I did eventually in the 80s. Was it 80s? No, 90s, early 90s. Probably too old for it, but we were out just kind of throwing a football around and stuff, and I was really into watching football, and I was just kind of just absorbed in it. And a bunch of us were playing football out on this field in an area where we all worked, and we decided to put together this league, and we ended up because you've got ambulances. We ended up being they called it semi-professional, which I think was a ridiculous thing, but they put us in that category so that we could lock in the football field, have access to have on hand an ambulance and things like that. And so we did that. I played that for 10 years. So I think it was late 80s through the 90s, most of the 90s. So I played for 10 years. I ended up breaking a little finger and breaking my collarbone, but mostly I was fine. We didn't play with pads. And we didn't play flag or touch. We played football without the equipment. And we had, towards the end, some of the teams dropped off, and we had a lot less people because we had some pretty serious. We had some Achilles injuries where people were, they couldn't walk for months, and we had an owner of a dealership. He decided he wanted to come out and play, and he was doing a run back on a kickoff, and he got hit in the ribs, and he snapped 3 or 4 of his ribs. You could hear it. It sounded like somebody took a huge branch that just dry and just crack. So yeah, it was pretty insane, but it was so much fun. And the problem with YouTube is that they have a lot of features that Rumble doesn't have. Actually, Rumble has more features now than YouTube has. It's one of the many reasons. But the thing is, YouTube can't do that. They don't have that feature. That's just one example. YouTube, let's see. Come on, where's my mouse? Let's see. Where? Here. YouTube can't do that. There are separate programs, but the problem is every time YouTube is updated, then they don't function anymore. They can cause your computer to crash. This is part of the studio. YouTube can't do this. So in live, you can, if you're doing editing on a video, you're doing it. YouTube's not doing it. But as a live feature, YouTube doesn't have much of anything. You don't have ad reads like is available here if you want to do them, and you can make some money off it. There's just so many things. Features for users. Well, what do they have for users? I like using YouTube to watch. Don't get me wrong, but I'm finding myself with more and more Rumble because more and more people are moving over to Rumble. But I like YouTube to watch. It's a nightmare to broadcast from. So, yeah, it's like night and day. What am I getting these massive messages out? Okay, how are we doing for time? We're almost there. We'll see if we can get by these last few minutes, and then we'll sign off. I have to go and reevaluate the time. I'm probably going to have to do more than a Tuesday and Thursday the next couple weeks. I don't know. I think I miscalculated, and that's going to suck. But that's like I practiced this morning. I started it up about 6 or 7 minutes early, and I want to check. I want to make sure. I think that counts. And if that's the case, maybe I'll start an hour early and just do my work and stuff, and then kick in and pick it up that way. I don't know. All right. Well, you people that have been here, Owen, Dan, Rob, I don't know if Rob's still around. He might have just dropped in. Sebastian, NB90, Mr. Malgonzo. I'm not sure who you are, but I appreciate you being here and commenting. Appreciate you guys helping me along with this. Imagine how rough it would be if I didn't even have anybody to talk to. 71 is a new 45. That's crazy, man. I hope I get my 70s as fresh as you look. Yeah, well, people say that. I don't know. I'm pretty fortunate, I guess. Had some health issues last year, but it's been pretty good since. You can remove suggested videos you're not interested in. You have to start playing videos manually in Rumble, just to name a few. You can remove suggested videos you're not in. I can do that. You have to start playing videos manually in Rumble. Oh, you mean like you play a video and then the next one will come in? You can do that in Rumble. You can, I forget where the setting is. See, the thing is, you see it in YouTube and then you look in a different, Rumble's not the only one out there, but you look in a different platform and that feature is not where you're used to, so you think it's not there. But it does have that. Like in YouTube, you can have continuous play. I turn it off. I want to manually select. So I don't have it in Rumble on and I don't have it in YouTube. But in both of them, you can do that. Now I get my name changed on here to my real name, like YouTube. Dogalittyman. What's your real name? Who are you? Got to head back to work. I'm on my lunch hour. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. So we're going to end it here. Again, thank you all. Thank you for hanging out with me. And it's Thursday, so I will see you at the next coffee time. Wait, when is Rob moving to Colombia? I think he's meeting with me April 15th. He's coming to Armenia. So before that. Owen, no, you have to manually push play to start a video playing. I'm pretty sure you can keep playing it, but I don't like it, so I have it off on YouTube. I want to choose. I don't like it reminds me too much of TikTok. All right, gonna end it here. Ciao.